Hi, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk News on Sunday. Tough day today. Um, Lots of people might have seen the memorial to Charlie Kirk. Um, it was broadcast all day and it was broadcast everywhere, um, not just in America, but across different nations in different languages. 200,000 people showed up in Arizona, outside and inside, to pay their respects to Charlie Kirk. 200,000. Think about that. That's the largest gathering of people for a non-political figure in the history of America. And there's a reason. There's a reason that they all felt the need to gather. And that reason is that Charlie Kirk spoke to many, many people from the heart. And he was the type of person that sought out his political rivals or those that disagreed with him because he wanted to have conversations with them. And he he had those tough conversations on a regular basis. Oh, hello, Francine. Francine is with us. Good to have you, Francine. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday evening. Um, Thank you for spending it with me. We're just talking about the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And I guess I could have cut a clip of that memorial to show you, but I decided that instead of showing you that clip, I wanted to show you a clip that maybe you hadn't seen yet. It's a CNN news reporter who was, I guess you would say, a political adversary to Charlie Kirk, um, someone who did not agree with him. And I think that of all the people that spoke today on the stage, there were many, many people who we know loved Charlie Kirk and was part of his life and part of Turning Point. But for me, this little clip was probably the most powerful clip that I have seen in days. Watch Van Jones from CNN speak about Charlie Kirk.
Hey guys, I've decided I'm going to do something. I'm going to share something personal that I wasn't sure I was going to share. But I think it's important. Charlie Kirk and I were not friends at all. In fact, the last week of his life, we were beefing hard, beefing online, beefing on air. But the day before he died, he did something that shocked me. He sent me a personal message calling for personal dialogue, wanted me to come on his show. He said we could be gentlemen together. He said we could deal with our disagreements agreeably. And in the past week and a half, just watching people talk about civil wars and censorship and all this stuff coming out of his death, I just thought it was important to let people know, don't put that on Charlie Kirk, because the last day of his life, he was reaching out to have not more censorship, more conversation, more dialogue with somebody who honestly was one of his adversaries, me. And I just want to share that with the world. And I hope that maybe it might help somebody on both sides deal with issues more like he did.
And that's what I'm looking for. As an American, I'm looking for people who will speak the truth, who will not make up lies, who will not pull little lines out of greater conversations and decide that because of those words that Charlie Kirk was somehow an anti-Semite or anti-gay or anti-whatever. Um, I'm going to play a clip in a little while of AOC. I'm only going to play the clip that refers to the Jimmy Kimmel firing, but the clip came from her being on the House floor when they passed a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk, and AOC called him ignorant. Jasmine Crockett called him uneducated. Um, when you look at the messenger who is delivering these words, it's almost laughable. It's laughable. Definitely well said. Thank you, Francine. Hello, OG Lucille. Good to see you. Good to have you with us. Hello, Ramon. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us, especially on a Sunday. So we need more Van Jones in the world. We need more people who are not going to lie about things. We need more people who are not going to pick little things and link them together and try to sell them as truth. That's called propaganda. We need to have that propaganda machine stop. AOC afraid of Charlie. Yeah. Here's the thing. We talked last week about free speech, and I'm an absolutist on free speech. I think that everybody has and should have the opportunity to show that they're an asshole if they want to by speaking, right? Even if it offends you, even if it hurts your feelings, you should have the right to say what you need to say and what you want to say. But even the lies and the half truths and the mistruths and all that stuff, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But we're uncovering it now. People are smarter. And I'm grateful for that. So the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, now they're trying to say that because the FCC, the chairman of the FCC said something about Kimmel, that somehow that was President Trump directing the FCC to threaten anyone who disagrees with him or his administration. And that's hogwash and nonsense. And once again, taking a grain of something that was said or done and expanding it into their narrative. Jasmine Crockett, look in the mirror. Yeah, it's, and she went to college, so she thinks she's smart because she has a degree. And that's exactly what Charlie Kirk talked to us about, is that college is not always the answer for all the kids. And college maybe isn't the answer for any of the kids anymore if we want them to stay American. Good evening, Angela Ricca. Did everyone watch Charlie Kirk's memorial ceremony? We're just talking about it, Angela. And instead of showing a clip from that ceremony, I showed the clip of Van Jones praising Charlie Kirk and telling the world that Charlie Kirk was not someone who was closed-minded and was not someone who was hateful. And I think that of all the speakers we saw today, it was important to show Van, because Van was an adversary, and he was not there today. He put this out, I think it was over the weekend sometime. And that's important. I mean, when you have Van Jones talking about Charlie Kirk not being a hater, because what Charlie did was the day before he died, actually, one of the last messages he sent was to Van Jones saying, let's get together and let's talk. I love the memorial today, especially the end. Yeah, it was, I did not see all of it. I had other things to do, but I will catch up. Those who silence people by bullets show they are afraid of words and truth. Those that silence people by bullets are, I have no words for anyone that would think that that was the proper way to, there's no room for people like that in polite society. And we have to decide, do we have a society or are we in the Wild West? Let's decide. I don't agree with President Trump and what he said today. He said something today about Charlie loving his enemies, but Trump does not. He despises his enemies. And I agree with Charlie. I have plenty of enemies, and frankly, I love them. I love them because for me, how do you know if something is good if there is no evil, right? How there's no comparison. You must have both sides of the coin so that you know which side you want to choose. If everybody was the same, if everybody walked in lockstep, first of all, it would be a very boring world. But more importantly, how would you differentiate? Hi, Ralph. Good to have you. Hello, Gloria. Good to have you. Hi, Tammy. Good to have you too. Thanks, everybody, for sharing your Sunday. The left says we are the violent ones. Yeah, the left says a lot of things that aren't true, and so does the right. Good evening. How are you, Timmy? The problem is that, and I don't understand it. There was video out there showing that Charlie was wearing a bulletproof vest, and we talked about this, and then the bullet was ricocheted and that killed him. That wasn't true. He wasn't wearing a bulletproof vest. Why would anybody say that? Why would anybody make that video? Who knows? Clicks, clickbait? I don't know. Maybe because TikTok and Meta and all that pay for everybody who clicks and comments. So maybe that's what pushes people to be over the top, say and do things outside of the normal society. There's another rumor out there that Erica is pregnant. She's not. Why? Why do people do that? Why do people lie? I don't know. And it really irritates me. All right. So, today we're talking about meltdowns, right? The left is having a meltdown over the Jimmy Kimmel firing. Why? Why are they having a meltdown? They're saying that somehow President Trump had a hand in it, which he did not. It's a lie. They're saying that because the FCC chairman said something publicly about Kimmel being disgraceful and saying something about Charlie Kirk's murder, that forced ABC to, that was like a code to ABC to fire him. The fact is Kimmel's numbers were in the toilet the whole time. I think it was Rand Paul, the senator, said that the chairman should never said anything. Well, I don't know. Are we for free speech or are we not for free speech? What do you mean the chairman shouldn't have said anything? If everybody gets to have an opinion, then everybody gets to have an opinion. Or if nobody gets to have an opinion, then nobody. You can't have it both ways. You can't decide, oh, you shouldn't talk, but you should talk. He wasn't speaking as officially from the FCC. He was speaking personally. So here, anyway, I want you to take a look at AOC and her words about Jimmy Kimmel and the administration. Watch.
It is equally important that Congress does unite to reject the government's attempt to weaponize this moment into an all-out assault on free speech across the country, all in the name of Charlie Kirk. President Trump and the FCC are now cynically threatening to shut down ABC and any outlets who give airtime to the administration's political critics. This is a disgusting attack on the American people and the very First Amendment rights that define us as a country. It is also the ABC Corporation's responsibility to refuse to embolden and participate in this corruption and escalation of censorship.
Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. What I will say, though, is while I'm very glad that the person that was arguably responsible for some of the largest, driving some of the most amounts of death threats and violent threats, not just to my office, but to plenty of people across the country, I also kind of feel like I'm like waiting for the cutscene at the end of a Marvel movie after all the credits have rolled, and then you see like the villain's like hand reemerge out to grip over like the end of a building or something. But deplatforming works, and it is important, and there you go. Good things can happen.
So when it's their messenger, deplatforming doesn't work. But if it's a messenger that's expressing an opinion other than theirs, then deplatforming works. What What the? Really? I mean, how? She's the internet queen. Doesn't she realize this stuff lives on the internet forever? Forever? And she wants to talk about Charlie Kirk being ignorant? How ignorant is she? And what the hell? I mean, really, what the hell? The people who laughed after he was shot should be held accountable. Explain that, Gloria. What do you mean held accountable? There are people whose sense of humors are, to be questionable, but I mean, who's going to hold them accountable? They were Democrat, and what damage did they cause, I guess is what I'm saying. They were Democrat politicians who I disagree politically, but when they pass away, I send a prayer to the families and a moment of silence. I never celebrated something like that because I'm no better than he left. Then that's an excellent point, Ramon. Hello, Mike Patrides. How are you, darling? I think that we need to be consistent, right? We need to not flip-flop. We have to protect everybody's free speech, especially the speech we don't like. That's what it's all about. An opinion has to have some basis in fact. We all have a responsibility what comes out of our mouths. That is true. And you know what used to happen? If you would tell a lie, if you were constantly giving misinformation out, people wouldn't believe you anymore, right? There's an old tale about, the boy who cried wolf. That was when we had polite society. I don't know that we have it anymore. I don't know that, we could have discourse in a polite fashion anymore. And President Obama wants to blame Trump for it, but I'll play a clip in a little bit, and I want you to hear him because you could tell he's struggling in this clip. But, he's trying to say that Trump started it, and I disagree. I think he did. And maybe George Bush. She tried to shield herself so she can attack Charlie with rhetoric. Yeah, it's just amazing to me that, she is their darling, and I don't know. She's your darling. That's pretty bad. The left hates it when the shoe is on the other foot. They do. When a leftist gets deplatforms, they cry foul. And that's exactly what she's doing. They're crying foul. People are entitled to their opinion, however boneheaded it is. I agree with that statement. I think Charlie Kirk did too. Okay, so let's see. Let's hear President Obama. Okay, he had lots to say. He had 17 minutes worth. I clipped it down to 3, and that's painful. But listen to him. Listen to him for a moment. First of all, I think he's losing it a little bit. But listen to how he was struggling to try to put this at Trump's feet.
What happened to Charlie Kirk was horrific and a tragedy. The central premise of our democratic system is that we have to be able to disagree and have sometimes really contentious debates without resort to violence. When it happens to some, but even if you think they're quote unquote on the other side of the argument, that's a threat to all of us. And we have to be clear and forthright in condemning it. That doesn't mean that we can't have a debate about the ideas that people who were victims of political violence were promoting. And so I've noticed that there's been some confusion, I think, around this lately. And frankly, coming from the White House and some of the other positions of authority that suggest, even before we had determined who the perpetrator of this evil act was, that somehow we're going to identify an enemy. We're going to suggest that somehow that enemy was at fault, and we are then going to use that as a rationale for trying to silence discussion around who we are as a country and what direction we should go. When I was president, in the aftermath of tragedies, when Dylan Roof went into a black church, and according to him, it was for racist reasons. As President of the United States, my response was not, who may have influenced this troubled young man to engage in that kind of violence, and now let me go after my political opponents. And so when I hear not just our current president, but his aides, who have a history of calling political opponents vermin, enemies, who need to be targeted, that speaks to a broader problem that we have right now. Those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. That's 3 gallons of bullshit in a 2-gallon bucket.
I call bullshit on that, because here was somebody who was in your administration.
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that.
She was Secretary of State. So you want to tell me that, you didn't have those extreme views in your White House, President Obama? The problem is that Obama thinks that he was the last president. He thinks that that's it. There were no other presidents but him. He's a narcissist, and it's very dangerous. The left has short memories. Remember Roseanne Barr, Gina Carano, J.K. Rowling, Mike Lindell, Joe Rogan. With Kimmel, it was not cancel culture. It's consequence culture. The company canned him. Well, if you don't make money, right? Hello, Kim. Happy Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. Obama's voice irritates me. He can't speak anymore, right? He was making it up as he was going along. He was pulling the lies out of his ass. Obama sounds like the ex-vice president. Forgot her name. Kamala Harris. Okay, so let's take a look at Obama's friends. Shall we look at Obama's friends? Let's look at the people he endures, he supports, he pals around with.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Are they a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to take our rights away? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Are they going to endanger the planet by not dealing with climate change? Yes. They're going to do all that.
Needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives. And unfortunately, there's plenty to go around.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
It's a danger. He's a genuine danger to American security.
What was outrageous 3 days ago is no longer on the front pages, even though it threatens the physical safety of so many people, particularly, as you point out, immigrants that he and Vance have decided to demonize. And I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is.
President Biden has been clear-eyed about the threat that the former president represents to our democracy.
Trump is an existential threat to our democracy.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
This is what kicking the out of fascism looks like.
Comparing the tactics of Donald Trump to Mussolini and Hitler is a very legitimate thing.
We have a Timo Hitler in the White House right now.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Those are Obama's friends. He doesn't embrace. race extremist ideology. No, not him. And nobody in his White House did, except for Hillary Clinton and all his friends. So, it's laughable, because the truth is that Obama goes out, and where is he speaking? At colleges, which is really concerning to me. And how does he speak? He speaks as if he was the last president there was. He speaks as if Donald Trump is not the president, as if the people in charge are not the people in charge. He speaks as if we all lost our mind when we elected him, and we don't know what we're doing, and we should all be punished or shown the way because of our mistake by bringing Donald Trump back. And I believe in his heart, he believes that. And that's why Obama was dangerous as president, and he still remains dangerous, because, he doesn't recognize that America elected him. That right there, racism is gone. And, put it this way, it's never gone, right? But the country is not racist because we elected him, and we respected him as our president. Nobody went out saying that somebody ought to put a bullet in his head. Nobody went out calling him a fascist or any of that. A lot of the stuff he did, like stopping drilling oil, but buying oil from Venezuela, which is a dictatorship, that was kind of weird. And oh, by the way, his father has ties to Venezuela. But, nobody got harped on that. So, I don't know. It's just, it really concerns me. It concerns me because they believe their lies, and they speak about it so convincingly. And of course, ABC, NBC, all these Chinese-owned, they're basically propaganda machines. And the Democrats feed them the propaganda, and they pump it out. But they're going crazy now because they're losing their propaganda machines. They lost Colbert. They lost, what was her name? B. They lost Kimmel. They're losing their propaganda machines. The guy that they silenced from our side, or the people they silenced from our side, all have platforms with millions of people, with more viewers than CNN and CNBC currently, and Kimmel and Colbert. So they're losing their minds because they don't know what to do. Because as long as Turning Point is around, Obama working the college campuses is not going to be enough, because now there's a counterpoint, and that's dangerous. That means the next generation is not necessarily going to lean left. Trump already shit-canned their whole idea about trying to bring in all the refugees before the 2020 census. That he stopped in 2018, right? We remember the line of refugees, they were coming our way, and Trump stopped it. And then there was nothing else that could be done but COVID, right? And the lockdowns and the George Floyds and all the other stuff that happened in 2020. And then the crazy election with all the ballots from nowhere. They're freaking out because their plan has been uncovered, and the conservatives are now saying what time it is. I'm going to play this last clip, which is a doozy. Maybe I'll play this last clip.
Regards to, but I think it's important, Mr. Chair, just like in D.C., home rule was won out of Black freedom struggle in the fight for civil rights. We can't be passive right now. So nobody over there should take anything we say so personally, as if we're attacking them. No, we're attacking a process. We're not attacking people here. And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in D.C. and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady yield?
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you
your time's expired.
It is expired, but
Tlaib,
Mr. Chair,
nice.
but you all live
like
here,
Mr.
and
Tlaib.
you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our nation's
Tlaib.
capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues. We were from the Third Reich. This is insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Tlaib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and all of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it
goes. It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold myself accountable. Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that?
Free DC and make sure you vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody else.
Tlaib. All right, time.
Byron Donald sure did listen to her. Obama gets paid to speak at colleges, and yeah, Carol says that Byron Donald's listened to her. Well, she clearly lost that argument because she lost her mind. But this is the thing is, she's yelling in the back. 14 and 15-year-olds are criminals. Yeah, the gangs are using them to do their dirty work, so because they know that they'll be prosecuted as juveniles. And let me ask you something: if the leadership in DC did not keep people living in poverty with hopelessness, perhaps young people wouldn't look to gangs to make instant money. Maybe that you should ask yourself, Rashida Tlaib. You want to talk about color? Let's talk about the color green, which drives everybody. Why don't you get the hell out of the way? Because Democrat policies have done nothing but keep Black and brown people down for decades. Maybe it's time that those policies are scrapped, and maybe it's time that the ceilings are lifted and everybody has a chance to do well. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. Out of line. She's definitely out of line. Yeah, I mean, we don't do that in Congress, but she does. Listen, she's stark raving mad, and she thinks because she's she's some sort of superstar that she can get away with this. Well, she's not a superstar. And by the way, she has been dragged out, arrested, screaming, carrying on, crying. It's too much. All right, I thank you for joining us this Sunday, and I hope you find peace in your heart. I think that Charlie Kirk's family is finding that peace. And I think that we all need to keep on talking, and we need to be calling people out on their lies respectfully. And we need to do what we can in the name of Charlie Kirk to keep the dialogue going. The unaccountability of public programs is extraordinary. That is why they fail. They fail because they keep everybody living in squalor. And so that's all young people see around them is squalor. I've said it a million times. We should do away with projects. We should have integrated low-income housing, meaning that different levels of income in big cities and inner cities, because when people see people not working, they think that that's the way of life. If you do an integrated system, then there's opportunity, because how do you find jobs? Sometimes people, word of mouth in the neighborhood, you're a neighborhood kid, you grow up, see in the bakery, you go, when you reach 15, you go in and you say, hey, I'd like a job. I'd like a part-time job. And that's how you start your career. But in these with the inner city kids, the gangs have control of the streets. And they believe that the only way that they can make money is by stealing or selling drugs or whatever else, because they have to have the $200 sneakers because they won't fit in if they don't. It's a culture. It's a mindset. And it's a mindset because we have created it by advancing these very, very terrible programs that the Democrats have given us. For 40 years, generations of Black and brown people have been living in poverty because the government interfered in their life and gave them what we call free money. Well, it's not free money, and it's keeping people impoverished. And just guess what? That's what Mamdani wants to do in New York. He wants everybody to be kept impoverished. By the way, that is socialism, and it turns to fascism very, very quickly. On that note, I am out. And yeah, well, no dad's around. Well, that's a whole nother show. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for joining me.